Chat GPT and AI has exploded all over the internet, and it's crazy the kind of things it can do. And so today, I'm going to have Chat GPT give me an interview as if it's asking questions from a podcast. So before we start, I'm telling Chat GPT that I'm a young, thriving entrepreneur and investor, and I help others turn their dreams into reality. So the first thing that comes up on Chat GPT says, "Welcome to the show, Matthew. It's great to have you with us today. As a young, thriving entrepreneur and investor, you are the forefront of turning innovative ideas into successful realities. I'm sure our listeners are eager to dive into our journeys and insights." So question number one, it says, "Matthew, could you kick things off with sharing a little bit about your background and what led you to be an entrepreneur and investor?" This is a super interesting question. So for me, entrepreneurship and investing has always been a way for me to gain financial freedom. I wasn't raised by super rich parents by any means, but they taught me that I could go and do anything in life. My entrepreneurship journey actually started with just a regular job. I was working at a bank going 40 hours a week while in university classes of over 16 credit hours, and I realized that this couldn't just be manageable. After failing all of my classes, I had to do a reassessment, and I discovered for myself that if I wanted to go to school full time, I needed to learn how to make some serious money to provide for myself and give me some extra time. My first step was actually doing door-to-door sales where I sold pest control in San Antonio, Texas. This gave me a super big leap in my confidence to actually go and sell things, and that gave me all the advantage when it comes to entrepreneurship. After I had made enough money to get me through a whole entire semester of school by doing summer sales, I kind of came to a point where I decided I wanted to do something for myself. Towards the end of my semester, I had a really bad back injury from snowboarding, which I had medical bills to pay on. On top of that, I gained 2 different speeding tickets and had just bought a new truck. So my finances were super low at this time, and that's when I decided to take entrepreneurship seriously. First business I started was actually window washing. I went to the local Lowe's store, bought $100 worth of material, just a bucket, some squeegees, and then I decided to go door to door. The first 2 doors I knocked, I each signed a contract for $200, and it took me about 2 to 3 hours to wash for both of those. So my investment actually grew insanely. I went from buying $100 worth of materials to within a couple hours of work, I already made $400. I went out again, and within another 3-hour period, I was able to sell over $1,400 worth of contracts and then wash those. And I realized quickly that I needed some employees to help me with the window washing. After a couple of weeks of this, I hired on a couple employees, brought on a business partner for myself to help me with all the sales and management. And then it just kind of took off from there. Within our first 3 months, we made almost $100,000 in sales. Then within our second quarter, we produced a little under $200,000 in sales as well. Entrepreneurship was definitely not for the faint of heart. There was a lot of struggles I had to go through, but overall I learned a lot, and it's been able to get me through school completely debt-free. So question number 2 AI has given me is, it says, "You've described yourself as someone who turns dreams into reality. Can you share a story or an example of a project or company you've helped to launch from the ground up?" So this is actually a really great question. When I found that I had a desire to help people start their own businesses was actually when I was visiting Ecuador. So I lived in Ecuador for 2 years and had lots of connections there. After the COVID-19 pandemic, I saw a really big humanitarian need there, so I decided to go back on humanitarian services. When going back there, I met with my friend Elias, who actually had his own business of installing air conditioning units, and he had been using several vans to make his operations work. But due to the pandemic, just like everyone else, the economy had flunked. He decided to offer to me free transportation, and he was able to actually take me all around the country to help in this humanitarian project. After traveling with my friend Elias, I was able to propose the idea to him that he should start a tourism company, that many Americans would love to come to Ecuador, being a super pretty country with amazing beaches, beautiful mountains, and that he could actually make some pretty good money if he were to provide transportation services and help people travel around. After that, I was able to help him step by step in making this business and bringing him a lot of clientele. This was able to provide him financial freedom, and it grew a spark in me to really help other people to go and start their own businesses. Question number 3 that AI is asking me says, "Entrepreneurship is as much about facing setbacks as it is about celebrating successes. Can you tell us about a significant challenge you faced in your career and how you overcame it?" So a super big setback came to me when I was in San Antonio, Texas doing pest control sales. In my first summer on month 1, I was barely selling anything. This was super hard and took a big toll to me because I based my self-worth based upon my ability to succeed, and I was having no success. After a super long day of some really harsh no's, a guy yelled back at me and said, "Hey, what's your success rates out here?" I responded back with 100%. He was like super confused and said, "Well, you didn't sell me." I said, "It's not about my ability to get the sell, it's about my ability to move forward." This was a super big moment for me, and it really clicked that if I could put my self-worth on my ability to move forward and instead of my ability to get the sell, that I would do a whole lot better. After that, my sales started doubling, tripling, and I started doing a whole lot better than everyone else on my team. The next question AI asked me is, building a network is crucial in the world of business. How do you approach networking, and what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs looking to expand their connections? The biggest piece of advice is stop making enemies. The more enemies you make, the more people you're going to limit yourself to actually becoming friends with. And that's just the easiest way to lose all networks. I'd also make sure to just surround yourself with people who are different than you. My best friend and business partner, Dylan Cousins, is a mechanical engineering major, and he definitely has more of a mechanical engineering mindset, where I have a more communication and business mindset. And what's crazy is we actually work super well together, and we're able to bounce off ideas from one another all the time. He's been proven to be my best networking asset. Next question is, work-life balance is a topic that many entrepreneurs struggle with. How do you manage your time and energy between professional endeavors, personal life? Long story short, you don't. Balance is fake, and it's impossible to really have full balance. I like to compare it to juggling. We have all these balls that we're trying to make work and balance them within our lives. But what you really need to do is just focus on one ball at a time. Balancing between work, family, education, your physical health is honestly one of the hardest things out there, but you just need to focus on the task at hand. For me, it was really big to know that I can't focus on everything at once. I just have to focus on the task at hand. When I'm with my wife, the only thing that should be going on my mind is how I can love and better be with her. When I'm at the gym, the only focus I have is lifting weights. I try to segregate everything in different times, manage my time the best I can, but in reality, balance is this false motion. You can't focus on all of it at once, just do it one thing at a time. This next question I love, and I'm going to give a simple answer to. It says, the landscape of investment entrepreneurship is constantly evolving. Based on your experience, what trends do you see shaping the future of startups and investments? I think the biggest thing for sure is technology. For me, I've seen time and time after again, whether it be in my own personal investments or whether it be in my businesses, the better I can incorporate my tools and technology, the better success rates I'm going to have. The last question AI is asking me says, lastly, for our listeners who are inspiring to be entrepreneurs or investors, what's one piece of advice you would give them as they embark their journey? For me, I think my biggest piece of advice is that when you are jumping into entrepreneurship, make sure you jump off of a high enough cliff that you can't really crawl back to where you were before. For example, I see a lot of huge success in salesmen that actually tend to move somewhere else to do their sales. The reason why this is because when you move somewhere, it's not as easy to just quit, pack up, and move back to your own town. Whereas if I'm in my same town that I was living in before, going and doing my sales or business, it's going to be super easy to just go back to my old ways of living, go back to my old occupation, and forget about the whole thing. Giving up is hardest when you have a really big barrier to where you were before to where you are now. So create as big as a barrier as possible when you jump into entrepreneurship. When you start your first business, don't be afraid to go out and get a huge loan. This is going to tie you to your business and tie you to making money and going to force you to have success. So I think having this interview with AI poses a lot of interesting things. Number one is I think these questions are actually really good and really human-like and could actually invoke a lot of good conversations. It's super interesting to me to see how much AI has evolved and become less robotic and more human. Number two is I feel like I wasn't able to have a really big connection with AI, and that's the reason why I feel like AI is never really going to play certain things like sales, retail, therapists, doctors, nurses. Although AI will and can help in many of those fields, I don't think it's going to ever fully replace it. Us as humans, we're just going to have to adjust to these tools and better use them for our abilities. If there was any advice from this video that you guys really liked, make sure to let me know in the comments. And if you're wanting more videos like this, make sure to like and follow.